She uninvited me 2 days before her birthday, and I still showed up with her ex-best friend in tow. The text had arrived at midnight, as if guilt couldn't wait for daylight. Hey Roy, I've been thinking, just to keep things peaceful, I think it's better you don't come to the party. Hope you understand. I stared at the screen, blinking at the sheer boldness of it. Peaceful, as if I was the one who turned our breakup into a PR stunt. As if I was the one who uploaded a TikTok called How to Gracefully Remove Your Ex from Your Friend Group. She texted him at midnight? That's some coward move. Uninviting Roy is like poking a hornet nest with your eyelashes. It wasn't anger I felt, it was clarity. There was only one reason Emily wanted me gone. She was trying to rewrite the story without the people who knew the truth. So I decided not to show up alone. You sure you're okay with this? I asked Leah that morning. She looked up from curling her hair, her smile tight but sincere. She ruined my name to keep hers clean. You're not dragging me into anything, I'm already in it. Leah and Emily used to be inseparable, until Emily started dating me. That's when the cracks formed, accusations, manipulations, secrets twisted into weapons, and eventually, silence. Until this week, when Leah saw Emily's birthday highlight reel already pre-uploaded as a friends-only Instagram draft, and she wasn't tagged either. The plan wasn't revenge, it was a redirect. We were going to show up quietly, dress better, smiling brighter, and leave before the last candle was blown. No chaos, just presence. Revenge isn't loud, it's well-dressed and walks in with grace. They're about to turn her aesthetic party into a Greek tragedy. Emily's party was at a rooftop lounge, soft jazz, fairy lights, expensive wine bottles lined up like trophies. Everyone dressed like they were auditioning for a Life's Tile blog. I wore a black suit, Leah wore red. All heads turned the moment we walked through the elevator. Emily spotted us from across the rooftop. For a second, her smile flickered. Roy? Her voice carried over the soft music. Wow. I didn't expect. You uninvited me. I figured I should at least stop by to say happy birthday, I replied smoothly. Her eyes slid toward Leah, then back to me. I just didn't want drama. You said that already, I said, glancing at the drink in her hand. But it looks like drama was already on your guest list. Ooh, that line should be illegal. He's smiling like it's not personal, it's surgical. She tried to mask the shift in tone with a laugh. I just meant, there's so much history. Leah stepped forward. Exactly, and we figured you wouldn't want to erase it. After all, your party theme's about real connections, right? Emily blinked. Sure, yeah. Then she turned sharply. Russell! From the bar, Russell raised his glass. Tall, smug, and always a little too loud for indoor spaces, he swaggered over with the confidence of someone who'd heard their name and assumed it was praise. Didn't expect the X-Files reunion, he said, but I guess everyone likes a comeback tour. Don't worry, Leah said, we won't stay long. No need, Emily cut in. You're welcome to stay, I'm not upset, I just wish you'd given me a heads up. And miss this entrance? I said. Never. Roy's got enough knives in that suit to start a dinner service. Emily's voice is shaking, you can hear it behind the wine. The atmosphere thickened, conversations nearby slowed, someone muted the playlist. Leah turned to Emily and smiled. By the way, you should check your phone. Emily's brow furrowed. She pulled her phone from her clutch. A message was waiting, an old video. Leah had found it last week, a private recording. Emily mocking her friends behind the airbacks, saying she only kept Leah around because she was aesthetic in group photos. Emily's lips parted, her thumb hovered, she didn't play it. You wouldn't, she whispered. I didn't send it to anyone else, Leah said. Yet. Why now? Emily hissed, after all this time. Because uninviting someone to protect your lie doesn't erase what you did, I said. It just delays what's coming. Oh my God, he brought receipts. Birthday bash turned truth bomb. Emily took a step back, her mask finally cracking. Russell tried to step between us, but Leah looked him dead in the eye. This isn't your scene, Russell. Just refill your glass. He obeyed, probably the first time anyone had seen him quiet. I looked around the rooftop one last time, at the friends Emily had staged for likes, at the cake too perfect to eat, at the girl who wanted a flawless party by cutting out everyone who knew who she really was. "Happy birthday, Emily," I said. Then we turned and walked toward the elevator, leaving silence behind. Roy never liked surprises, yet he became one. To himself, to Emily, to everyone who once assumed he'd quietly disappear after their breakup. But Roy didn't vanish. He adapted, like he always did. Before Emily, Roy was someone who operated behind the spotlight. Thoughtful, methodical. A man who didn't raise his voice unless he was presenting strategy to clients or defending his team. He built his career in quiet layers, UX strategist by profession, observer by nature. Never the loudest in the room, but always the one people turned to when chaos began. That was probably what drew Emily to him in the first place. She was all light, all angles and charm, the kind of woman who knew which words would glitter best in a caption and which lipstick shade would complement sunset lighting. Emily ran her world like an algorithm, optimized for attention. But Roy was the anomaly in her code, the stable orbit around which her chaotic comet could swing without burning out. They met during a campaign project 2 years ago. She was the influencer. He was the kid. E-designer managing her brand rollout. He didn't like her at first. Too performative, too aware of eyes, cameras, clicks. But during one of those late-night strategy calls, when her filters were down and her voice rasped with exhaustion, she said something that made him look up. "I wish people loved me even when I wasn't being perfect." That night, Roy stayed on the call with her until 3 a.m., and that's how it began. Oh wait, that line kinda hit hard. Okay, so he wasn't just a rebound? He fell for the girl beneath the spotlight. Classic, painful. For a while, they worked. Roy gave Emily calm, gave her structure, held her hair back during her breakdowns, built a home with her, one filled with scented candles she never lit and books she pretended to have read. Emily, in return, gave him color, motion, introduced him to her world of curated chaos, where every day was a soft launch or a collaboration or a story waiting to be casually posted. She brought him into the light, made him visible to people who'd never know the name Roy unless he was tagged beside her. And for a while, he allowed it. Until the cracks began to form, not with earthquakes, but with erosion. Emily started disappearing mid-conversations. She'd pause dinners to record stories, cancel plans for better engagement windows. Slowly, his world became a prop in hers, his expressions, analyzed, his clothes, branded, his privacy, sacrificed for couple content. "Can you not look so blank when I record?" she once said during a vlog. "It kind of kills the mood." He laughed it off. First, then came the edits. She'd cut out things he said because they didn't fit the aesthetic. She replaced his book recommendations with viral ones. Even his jokes were dubbed over for pacing. Emily wasn't just shaping her online world, she was revising him out of it, and still, he stayed. Because he believed in the version of her that whispered vulnerabilities at 2 a.m., the girl who once fell asleep holding his wrist like a lifeline, the one who said, "Don't ever leave me, even if I push you away," so he didn't. Until one day, she left instead, or more accurately, she reshaped the narrative to exclude him. It wasn't a messy breakup, there were no screaming matches or flying plates, just a conversation over matcha lattes, where she looked at him with curated sadness and said, "Roy, I think we've outgrown each other, we want different things." He wanted truth, she wanted applause. He nodded. Because if there was one thing Roy understood more than anything, it was timing, and that moment wasn't meant for begging. He let her go without a scene. That's the biggest plot twist. Sometimes the softest exits echo the loudest. He didn't chase, he observed. That's worse. In the months that followed, he watched from a distance. Emily's followers skyrocketed. New chapter reels. Growth after heartbreak. TikToks. Teary-eyed reflections about learning to love herself again. Not once did she mention his name, but he was in every transition. Every photo of her smiling alone, where he was once cropped beside her. He wasn't angry, not at first. But then she uninvited him. Not from her life, she had already done that, from her birthday. Her 29th, to be exact, the one she had once called her pivot point, when she'd finally own her brand instead of being just a face. She had made him promise they'd celebrate it on a beach somewhere quiet. She'd even joked, if we're not married by then, at least bring cake. Now, instead, she brought erasure. And what made it worse? She did it with a rehearsed, sugary voice message. I just don't want to make things uncomfortable for you, or for me. It's supposed to be my night, you know? That's when Roy realized she was doing it again. Rewriting him out of a story he helped build. And that's when he decided to become the plot twist. He didn't want revenge. That word was too heavy. What he wanted was correction, of narrative, of memory, of what people thought they knew about Roy. That's when Leah re-entered his life. She called him the same night the invite landed. Let me guess, she said. You got the midnight guilt message too? He chuckled. Yeah, came with sprinkles of manipulation on top. Leah had been Emily's closest friend for 5 years, until Emily slowly peeled her away from the group, spread half-truths in Instagram DMs, and turned their circle against her one by one. Leah never retaliated, she simply vanished from the party invites. Until now. "Wanna crash it together?" she asked. Her voice was calm, but there was fire underneath. And that's how Roy, always the measured one, ended up picking out a tailored suit for a rooftop event he wasn't welcome at. And how Leah, always the silenced one, chose a blood-red dress as sharp as her memory. Roy and Leah teaming up? Emily's birthday just became a finale. This isn't revenge, this is poetic rhythm. She uninvited the wrong people, now the real guests have arrived. Russell was the final piece. He had always been Emily's PR guy, more spin than spine, the kind of man who repeated tweets like philosophy and acted like he invented charisma. But he and Roy had shared drinks once, after a failed campaign meeting, and Roy had learned something valuable that night. Russell hated being underestimated. So when Roy texted him a week before the party and said, "If Emily pulls something at your bar, and I keep it clean, what's in it for you?" Russell replied in under 5 seconds. "Free drinks all night and I'll make sure the spotlight's where you want it." Roy didn't trust him, but he didn't need to. He just needed him visible. And with that, the triangle was set: Roy, the forgotten builder; Leah, the silenced friend; Russell, the wildcard insider. 3 people Emily thought she'd edited out. They didn't come to destroy her party. They came to remind her, you can't delete people like their captions, and you can't uninvite history. The first glass shattered at 8:27 p.m., unnoticed by most, but not by Roy. It happened near the cake table. A minor incident, really. A waiter bumped the edge, a flute hit the ground, and sugar-dusted macarons trembled slightly in their pyramid. But for Roy, it was a perfect metaphor. The cracks had started, the real party had begun. He watched from a distance as Emily floated around in her peach silk dress, smiling wide enough to convince even herself that she was glowing. Her laugh was 2 octaves higher than usual, carefully rehearsed, weaponized in selfies and tagged posts. The rooftop was glowing with compliments and camera flashes, but none of it felt real. It was a scene, she was acting, that's what she always did best. Leah stood by the ivy wall, sipping club soda, watching Emily the way a hawk watches a dove pretending to be a phoenix, calm, still, but her grip on the glass was tight. Roy adjusted the sleeve of his suit and moved to the edge of the bar. Russell greeted him with a look halfway between smirk and salute. "She saw you," he said, twice, still pretending she didn't. Roy nodded. "Good. You want me to stir the pot or wait for her to throw in the spoon?" "Wait, she'll break her own silence. She always does when she thinks she's losing the frame. These people aren't guests, they're chess pieces." Roy's playing 4D chess while Emily's stuck on Instagram filters. Leah hasn't said a word to her yet. Oh, the tension. At 8:35 p.m., the music paused for the cake reveal. The server wheeled it in slowly. A 3-tier vanilla sponge, glazed in cream and pinks, crowned with a minimalist gold 29. Emily clapped her hands. Guests circled the display with their phones ready. The glow of camera lights made the entire setup look staged. It was. "Thank you everyone for being here tonight," Emily said, stepping into the center. "This year has been healing, transformative, and I couldn't have done it without my real friends." She glanced across the room. Brief eye contact with Leah. Too brief. Leah raised her glass slightly, a ghost of a smile on her lips. Not mockery, just memory. Emily turned away too quickly. She's cracking. That little toast hit her stomach like a shot. You can't heal if you're still hiding the wound. Leah's silence is louder than the mic. And then it began. Russell leaned closer to Roy and whispered, "It's time." Roy nodded. Subtle. Start small. Russell disappeared into the crowd, casually passing the word to a few strategically placed mutual friends. He only needed to say one line. "Did you hear what Emily said about Leah last year?" Whispers were sparks. People began glancing toward Leah. Roy knew the truth would take 5 minutes to spread. That's all it needed. The video Leah held, the one of Emily mocking her, calling her aesthetic decor, had never been sent out. But Russell mentioning it was enough. People would ask questions. Emily's curated story was about to fracture. By 8:47 p.m., Emily knew something was wrong. The laughter around her was more performative. Conversations died when she approached. Someone asked if Leah was really uninvited. Another asked about the birthday list drama. Emily's smile faltered. Roy could see it, and then Emily spotted him, alone now, framed by light, leaning on the edge of the bar with a glass of dark vermouth. Not smiling, just there. She crossed the room. "Roy," she said, sweet but sharp. "Can we talk?" "Of course," he replied, setting his glass down. "Somewhere quieter?" She led him to the hallway near the private restrooms, white tile, cold lighting, a perfect place for truths that didn't need an audience. "I don't know what you're doing," she said quietly, "but if this is about me not inviting you, it's not." She blinked. "Then what is it?" Roy leaned against the wall, folding his arms. "You didn't just uninvite me, you rewrote me." "What are you talking about?" "You didn't want peace, Emily. You wanted control. You wanted to erase everything you couldn't curate into perfection. Me, Leah, the versions of you that weren't beautiful." Emily's expression turned defensive. "You're twisting things." "I'm repeating them." She hesitated. "This is my night, Roy, and you're making it about an old drama." Roy smiled faintly. "No, you already did that when you invited everyone but the people who made your journey real. That's not a mic drop. That's a speaker collapse." She's shaking. She didn't expect him to stay this calm. "Is it still betrayal if you saw it coming and just let it happen?" "I don't owe you anything," Emily whispered. "You're right," he said. "You don't. But that doesn't mean what you did isn't betrayal." She stared at him, fury and shame swirling behind her mascara, and then, her eyes flicked toward the main hall. "Did Leah send it?" "No," Roy said. "She didn't need to." Emily's mouth tightened. "You're trying to humiliate me." "No," Roy said. "Just reminding you, the people you step over to climb usually remember." And with that, he left. She didn't follow. Back at the rooftop, the murmurs had turned into side glances. Some people were now huddled near Leah, others checked their phones, pretending not to observe the drama rippling through the room. Russell returned to Roy's side. "She's burning up. Do we end it?" Roy looked toward Leah. She met his gaze. Her nod was barely visible. "Let her choose," Roy said. "This is her moment." At 9:03 p.m., Leah stepped up to the cake table. She tapped a fork against her glass. The sound rang louder than expected. Conversations paused. All eyes turned. "I just want to say something quickly," Leah began, to Emily. Emily Fro is near the lounge area. "I know I wasn't on the guest list," Leah continued, voice calm, "and I understand why. It's easier to erase people than to face what you did to them. But I'm not here for revenge, I'm here for clarity." She turned toward the guests. "Last year, Emily and I stopped speaking. I didn't tell my side, I didn't send proof, but I watched as my name got dragged through group chats, edited out of photos, and turned into a warning." Emily opened her mouth, but Leah held up her hand. "I forgave her, silently. But when she uninvited me from a party that once meant something to both of us, after years of being there for every other one, I realized something." She paused. "Forgiveness without acknowledgement is just submission." She said that, out loud, at the mic. Forgiveness without acknowledgement is submission. Tattoo that line. Leah is rising like a phoenix, Emily still clutching the ashes. Emily stepped forward finally, voice breaking. "Leah, you don't understand." "No, Emily, you didn't understand. You built your brand on vulnerability but weaponized other people's silence. You made me out to be the drama so you could be the survivor." Emily blinked, eyes brimming. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. But you did. Roy stood still. The guests did too. No one moved. I'm not here to destroy you, Leah finished. Just to stop letting you write my part in your story. And then she walked away. Emily turned, seeking refuge, only to see the cameras off, the crowd thinned, the light dimmed. Even Russell looked down, sipping slowly, saying nothing. Roy gave her a long look, not angry, not cruel, just finished. That was the betrayal, not just the uninviting. It was pretending she had the right to unright people. Roy didn't leave the rooftop right away. He stood there in the corner as the wind picked up, tugging gently at the hem of his blazer. The music had started again, soft jazz, ironic now, like a soundtrack to the fallout. A few guests awkwardly sipped their drinks, pretending the truth hadn't just split the party like thunder cracks across a sky. Leah was gone. She'd walked out alone after her speech, her back straight but her fingers visibly shaking. Roy had offered to follow her. She said no. She needs her moment, Russell murmured beside him, eyes still scanning the thinning crowd. Roy didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the candlelit table near the railing. A few minutes ago, Emily had sat there with her head in her hands, and now, she was gone too. He didn't feel victorious. There was no thrill in watching someone choke on their own manipulation. Instead, what he felt was exhaustion, a quiet ache at the base of his chest, not grief, not rage, something worse. Disappointment. He's not gloating, he's grieving in silence. It's the betrayal you saw coming that still hurts the most. He didn't want this ending, but he accepted it. He'd loved Emily once. He remembered that clearly. The soft Sundays, her sleepy laugh when she woke up late, the way she'd trace the lines on his palm like they held constellations. She had been more than the social mask. Once. But then she got addicted to the version of herself that strangers praised. That was what stung the most. She hadn't changed because of him. She changed in spite of him. Like his presence reminded her of what she didn't want to be anymore. She once said to him, "You make me feel real." Now, reality was something she avoided. Roy exhaled slowly. The breeze tasted like sugar and wine and bitter memories. He didn't notice Emily until she was standing directly behind him. "I didn't think you'd stay," she said. He turned. Her makeup was still perfect, but her eyes weren't. "I stayed because I had to," Roy replied. "For Leah, for myself." Emily bit her lip. "Do you hate me now?" "No," Roy said. "I just don't trust you anymore." That answer made her flinch more than he expected. "I never meant for it to go this way," she said softly. "I really didn't." "But it did, Emily, because you didn't stop it. Because somewhere along the line, you started believing your stories more than you believed your people." She didn't reply. "I watched you vanish," Roy continued, voice quiet but steady. "Bit by bit, post by post, until I realized the girl I loved wasn't behind the camera anymore." Emily looked down at her heels. "I didn't know how to come back." "That's the thing," Roy said. "You didn't even try. This is the kind of heartbreak you don't scream about, you just carry it. They're not enemies. They're echoes. This hurts worse than any fight." "I thought..." Emily paused. "I thought if I controlled the narrative, it wouldn't hurt." "But it did." She nodded. "I still think about you, Roy." He didn't say anything. "I know that doesn't fix anything," she added quickly. "But I do. And I think about Leah, and how I messed things up, and how none of it felt wrong until I saw your face tonight. You uninvited me to protect your peace," he said. "But peace built on lies isn't peace, it's just silence." A beat passed. "Then why didn't you send the video?" she asked. "Why didn't you both just destroy me?" Roy tilted his head. "Because we didn't need to." Emily blinked. "You're not the villain, Emily. You're just someone who forgot other people are real." She sat down on the bench beside them, like the words had cracked her knees. "I didn't mean to hurt anyone," she whispered again. It sounded smaller this time. Roy looked out at the city. The skyline blurred a little. Maybe it was the wind, maybe not. "I know," he said. "But you did. This isn't rage, this is ruin softened by memory." He's not punishing her, he's releasing her. Forgiveness without reconnection, that's the rarest kind. The air was still again. A few guests laughed in the distance, trying to pretend they weren't standing in the aftermath of someone else's unraveling. The cake was still intact, but no one was eating it. Emily stood. "Will you ever talk to me again?" she asked. "I don't know," Roy said, "but I won't speak badly of you, that's all I can promise." She nodded, silent. A tear slipped down her cheek. Roy didn't wipe it. That wasn't his role anymore. As she walked away, Roy closed his eyes. It didn't feel like closure, but it felt like something. When he opened them again, Russell was back. "She's gone," he said. "I saw." "You okay?" "No," Roy said. "But I will be." Russell handed him a bottle of water. "You did it cleaner than I would have. I was half expecting a public showdown." Roy cracked the cap and drank. "I'm not in the business of making messes." "But you are in the business of truth." Roy smirked faintly. "That's always been my currency." Russell clapped his back once. "Come on, let's find Leah." They found her downstairs, near the valet, arms folded, looking at the sky. She turned as they approached. "I shouldn't have said all that," she said. "Not on her birthday." "You said exactly what needed to be said," Roy replied. She looked up at him. "So did you." They stood in silence a while longer, watching as the rooftop lights dead behind them. "Want to get pancakes?" Russell asked, breaking the silence. Leah laughed. "God, yes." Roy exhaled through a smile. "Let's go." The party was over, but they weren't finished yet. 3 days passed before anything strange happened. Roy had almost convinced himself the night at Emily's birthday was over, done, wrapped in silence, and walked away from. But Friday morning, while sipping his first black coffee, he opened his inbox and froze. Subject: urgent, statement requested, regarding Emily Chen plus viral audio clip. The body of the email contained only a link, followed by, "We're seeking your comment before we publish, deadline 6 p.m. He clicked the link. It led to a leaked audio file already circling private group chats and smaller gossip forums. Emily's voice, unmistakably hers, could be heard laughing in the background before saying, clearly, "Roy only came to my birthday to feel relevant again. Honestly, he and Leah are still obsessed. He's bitter, and she's just embarrassing." Laughter. Then another voice, Russell's. "Guess the drama really did show up." Silence dropped over Roy's apartment like fog. He played the clip again. Same words, same voices, same venom. What? Russell betrayed him? Emily got caught dragging Roy again. I thought she learned. I feel a comeback arc, and it's not going to be pretty. At first, Roy felt nothing. Then, heat began to rise in his ears. He didn't feel betrayed, he felt set up. Russell had stood next to him, had clinked glasses, whispered, "This is your moment," and watched Roy hold the high ground, and all the while, he'd recorded Emily mocking them and joined in. Not just that, someone had leaked it. This wasn't an accidental drop, it was calculated, weaponized. Roy didn't care about gossip forums, but he did care about the truth being turned into spectacle, again. First, Emily had curated him into silence, now she was trying to cast him as the obsessed ex who'd shown up uninvited for clout. He messaged Leah immediately. "Roy, have you heard the clip?" She replied in less than a minute. Leah, "Yes, I didn't leak it." Leah, "But I know who did." Roy, "Russell?" Leah, "He didn't just leak it, he sold it." Roy stood. The chair scraped hard against the floor. The real betrayal wasn't Emily, it was the person he trusted to keep things clean. He didn't see that knife coming. That's why it hurts worse. He called Russell. No answer. Then again, straight to voicemail. By 1 p.m., the audio was already climbing toward virality. Someone had trimmed it into a meme. Emily's line about Roy being desperate to feel relevant, set to a sad piano loop. There were hashtags now, side-by-side edits of the birthday confrontation followed by the leaked audio. Roy got played again. She said no drama, then posted the sequel. "This is why you don't trust rebrands with ring lights." By 3 p.m., his clients started emailing. Not aggressively, but the questions were, "Are you okay? Want us to loop in PR? Need a statement?" Roy had no intention of becoming content again, but Russell had crossed a line. He met Leah that evening at the park. She looked exhausted. "I warned you about him," she said. "Russell doesn't pick sides, he picks headlines." "I thought he was neutral." "No, Roy, he's opportunistic. You gave him the drama, he gave it to the market." They sat in silence for a few beats. The city was still pulsing all around them, cars, neon, life continuing like it hadn't seen their pain splashed across timelines. "I'm not angry at Emily," Roy said at last. Leah blinked. "You're not?" "I'm disappointed, but I'm not surprised. I expected her to try to take Sita's on troll again. I just didn't think she'd do it through Russell." Leah exhaled. "She's scared. Her brand is built on vulnerability, not accountability. That clip makes her sound like exactly what she says she's not." Roy looked at her. "And you?" She smirked. "Me? I'm furious." Roy nodded. "Good." She raised an eyebrow. "Because I think it's time we write the actual version of what happened." "Oh. He's not going to react emotionally, he's going to reconstruct the truth." Roy and Leah teaming up again, round 2 is going to be strategic. The first confrontation was polite, the second will be precision. That night, Roy stayed up building a timeline. He pulled receipts, texts, photos, even calendar events. He cross-referenced Emily's posts with his own schedule from when they were still together. Quiet proof, not for the world, but for context. Meanwhile, Leah drafted a long-form blog entry. No rage, just facts. It read like a confession and a correction. It wasn't about dragging Emily down, it was about anchoring herself to something real again. By Sunday afternoon, they posted it jointly. No hashtags, no scandalous title, just, "our version." In it, they didn't call names, they didn't insult me, they outlined, carefully, honestly, what it felt like to be erased, what it meant to be uninvited, not just from a party, but from someone's memory, and how it felt to stay quiet for so long that even your absence got weaponized. Within an hour, the post started trending, not because it was dramatic, but because it was undeniably human. Influencers shared it. Even people who had once supported Emily began asking questions. No one cancelled her, but the pedestal cracked. And Russell? He issued a note on his story. "Sometimes you don't realize the real drama until the cameras are off. I'm staying out of it now." Roy didn't reply. He didn't have to. Because by Monday, a journalist published a full breakdown of the birthday fallout, including a mention that Russell had shopped the leaked clip to 4 different outlets. Suddenly, Russell's inbox was the one exploding. Roy didn't need to scream, he just showed receipts. You can't cancel someone who's already emotionally done. This isn't revenge, this is narrative reclamation. At 10 p.m., Roy got a message from Emily. "Emily, I didn't know he'd sell it, I swear." He stared at it for a full minute, then typed, "Roy, and I didn't know you'd keep lying to me even after everything broke." Emily, "I was scared." Roy, "You should have been honest." Emily, "I was. Sometimes." Roy, "Then this was one of the other times." He didn't block her, he didn't type anything else. He just let her stare at that last sentence. The real twist wasn't the audio, it wasn't Russell's betrayal. It was this. Roy had been painted a ghost, but now he was the narrator, and he was done being erased. It happened on a Wednesday, not a dramatic Friday night, not a weekend full of glitz and tension, just a plain, grey, midweek day where the sky hung low and nobody expected anything to explode. Roy had been working from a quiet cafe. He didn't go to his usual co-working space anymore. Too many stares lately, too many whispers of, "Is that him?" Now that the Emily audio leak and the Our Version post had turned his private life into public discourse, he hated it, not the attention, but the noise, the idea that people were suddenly choosing sides over a story they'd only seen in edits. Leah texted first. "Leah. You need to come to the agency building." Leah. "Now." Leah. "She's here." Roy blinked. Roy. "Emily?" Leah. "And Russell. And PR. It's happening." He didn't ask what it was, he just closed his laptop, left a tip beside his coffee, and walked out. The final round, this is it. He's walking in quiet, that means the storm is about to start. Emily, Russell, Leah, and Roy in one room, someone's leaving scorched. The agency building was a sleek tower of glass and white marble. Roy used to walk in here holding Emily's hand. Now he stepped in alone, his reflection fractured across the sliding doors. The receptionist recognized him instantly. Ms. Chen is in the 14th floor conference room. Roy nodded. Thanks. The elevator ride was silent, smooth, and somehow unbearably loud. His own breath felt amplified, but his expression didn't change. He'd already faced fire. This was just the reckoning. When the doors opened, he saw Leah first, standing beside a long glass table, arms crossed, her expression unreadable. Then Russell, leaning casually against the back wall like none of this touched him. And finally, Emily. She stood near the head of the table, phone in her hand, brows furrowed. The moment she saw Roy, she straightened. "You came," she said softly. "You texted Leah," Roy said. "She's the only reason I'm here." Russell chuckled under his breath. "This feels cozy." "No one's here for comfort," Leah shot back. Roy walked to the far side of the table. He didn't sit. "So?" he asked. "Why this?" Emily put the phone down. "Because I'm losing everything." Roy blinked. "Excuse me?" "My sponsors," she said. "The partnerships, the affiliate brands. I've lost 5 this week. The others are pausing until things cool down." "That's what happens when you pretend betrayal is branding," Leah said. Emily didn't flinch. "I know what I did. I know the things I said in that clip were disgusting, but I didn't leak it." "No one's debating that anymore," Roy said. "We know who did." All eyes shifted to Russell. He raised both hands casually. "Look, I gave the clip to a few editors, yes, but I didn't leak it. Someone else must have done it." "No one else had it," Leah said coldly. "You were in the room when she said those things," Roy added. "You laughed. And you're acting like you didn't benefit from this storm," Russell said, his voice sharp now. "Come on, Roy, you've got a reputation now. People know your name. You're getting invited to panels." "I didn't want that attention," Roy said. "I just didn't want to be erased." He said it again. His truth isn't revenge, it's reclamation. Russell always saw drama as currency. Now he's broke. Emily's facing what she created, and what she let others use. Emily looked directly at Roy. "I called this meeting because I want to fix it." "There's no fixing a lie you let grow," Leah said. "There's only accountability." "I want to make a video," Emily said quickly. "I want to talk about the birthday, the audio, everything, but I want all of us in it." "No," Roy said instantly. Emily blinked. "What?" "I'm not standing in your frame while you cry your way back into forgiveness." Her breath caught. "You don't get to brand your way out of the truth," Roy continued. "You want to heal? Start by being real, not performative, not edited, not with background music." "I'm trying to fix this." "You're trying to control the damage," Leah said. "That's not the same." Emily's lips trembled. For the first time, her face showed real fear, not staged vulnerability, real, raw fear of what happens when the curtain tears and the crowd keeps watching. "I've built everything from scratch," she whispered. "If I lose it, you lose the lie," Roy said. "Not your worth, just the illusion." For a long time, no one spoke. And then Russell snorted. "You all act so self-righteous, but let's not forget, Roy came to that party dressed to kill." Leah rehearsed that speech. "None of you are saints." "We never said we were," Roy said, "but we didn't sell anyone's pain for clicks." Leah stepped forward, slowly. "You want to make a video, Emily? Do it, but do it alone. Name what you did, apologize without props, don't drag us into another plot." "And if I don't?" Emily asked. Roy finally sat down, calmly, deliberately. "Then this becomes your brand now," he said. "The girl who built a house of mirrors and screamed when it shattered." Emily stared at him like she didn't recognize him. Maybe she didn't. Maybe she still saw the man who stayed quiet, who edited himself out so her captions could shine. "Not anymore." "You've changed," she whispered. "No," Roy said. "I just stopped making myself small so you could feel big." That's not a line. That's a scar being closed. She's losing her power not because of hate, but because of clarity. This is the end of her version, and the start of theirs. Emily sat down too, but she didn't cry, she just looked tired, like something inside her had finally deflated. "I'll film it tonight," she said. Roy stood again. "Good, but don't expect applause." I don't, she said softly. As he walked toward the door, Leah followed, but before they exited, Emily called out one last time. Roy? He turned. Were you ever going to forgive me? He paused. I thought about it. No, he said, but I was willing to let you go gently, until you made sure the whole world watched me burn. And then he walked out. Down the elevator. Past the receptionist, into a city that no longer knew just one version of the story. He and Leah didn't speak until they reached the sidewalk. What now? She asked. He looked at her, the only person who stood beside him when the lights were off and the frame cracked. Now, he said, we start telling better stories. 2 weeks passed. In the internet years, that was a lifetime. Emily's video dropped on a rainy Sunday evening. She titled it plainly, The Truth About My Birthday. No background music, no soft filter, no jump cuts. She sat on the floor, hair tied back in a plain white hoodie. For once, the set didn't look curated, just raw, fluorescent truth. I lied, she began, to Roy, to Leah, to you. I made myself the victim because it kept me safe, but I was never the one who lost the most, they were. She didn't cry, she didn't try to redeem herself midway with nostalgia. She named every detail, every manipulation, the uninvites, the gossip, the audio clip. She admitted to her flaws, her ego, her addiction to attention. She even admitted that she'd tried to spin it again, asking Roy and Leah to join her for a healing video. They refused. And that, she said, was when she realized, some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt, especially when you lit the fire yourself. By the next morning, the internet was split. Some praised her growth. Others called it a final desperate PR move. But no one doubted the message anymore. Because Emily, perfect, polished Emily, had finally admitted the one thing she'd spent years avoiding. She wasn't the heroine, she was the antagonist. And sometimes, the antagonist doesn't get a second arc. She said it. She actually said it. That's a redemption video, but she's not asking to be saved. The most powerful thing? Roy and Leah never posted a follow-up, they didn't need to. Roy watched the video in silence. He didn't flinch, didn't feel vindicated, just quiet. The noise had finally stopped. Until a notification buzzed across his screen. Email, subject, proposal, erased, short film concept, sender, Leah. He opened it. The email was brief. I've been working on something. It's based on us, not about us. If you're ready, I'd like to build it together. You don't have to say yes, but I'm tired of letting other people write the script. Attached was a 14-page treatment for a short film, Erased. The story, a quiet creative man is wiped from the narrative of a powerful social icon until he reclaims his place through truth, not revenge. No names, no parallels obvious to the public, but the undertones were unmistakable. Roy read it 3 times, then he replied, I'm in. That same week, they began production. Leah took care of the visuals, the locations, the script flow. Roy focused on voiceover, editing, and pacing. They worked late nights from Leah's apartment, ordering cheap Thai food, throwing lines back and forth like they were made for it. There were no filters, no manipulation, just collaboration. The best revenge is building something that's yours. They're telling their story without saying their names. Power. Emily made content. Roy and Leah made art. That's the difference. When Erased premiered on a mid-tier indie storytelling channel, it didn't explode overnight. It didn't trend on Twitter in the first hour, but the comments told a different story. This hurts in all the right ways. Silence is a character in this short, and it speaks louder than anything. I thought this was about a breakup, but it's about being rewritten. Wow. Then, slowly, one share led to another. A popular film critic posted, Erased is a masterclass in emotional pacing and narrative correction. No gimmicks, just truth with teeth. A week later, it hit 2 million views. By the end of the month, it was nominated for a Digital Short Award. Roy never once mentioned Emily. Leah never tagged her. They let the story breathe on its own. But Emily saw it. She posted a quiet message in her story. I watched it, and I felt every second. No follow-up, no tags, just that. It was enough. Then came the phone call Roy never expected. A production house in LA. We saw your shorts, we'd love to talk about adapting it into a full limited series. Possibly something that explores digital erasure, identity manipulation, and the emotional cost of performative culture. Roy didn't say yes immediately. He called Leah first. I'm not doing it without you, he said. She didn't hesitate. Then we're doing it. That call turned into meetings, meetings turned into offers. And just like that, the boy who'd been cut out of a birthday list became the one writing final drafts for studios. But he didn't gloat. Not once. In fact, when one of the producers joked, "Bet your ex regrets uninviting you now," Roy simply smiled and replied, "She did me a favor." He didn't need to destroy her, he outgrew her. That's the final act, evolution. She tried to edit him out, he turned himself into the story. And as for Emily? She stayed quiet for a while. Slowly returned to content, but softer, less polished. Her comments were off for months. When they reopened, people noticed she never staged redemption again. She stopped selling perfection. And people respected that. Not everyone came back. But the ones who stayed, they stayed for the real version. That was enough. Months later, at the Indie Film Awards ceremony, Erased won Best Short. Roy stood on stage with Leah. They didn't make a big speech, they thanked their crew, the audience, and then Roy paused, just once. "Thank you," he said, to the silence that made room for our voice. Leah added quietly into the mic. "And to the people who once tried to write us out, we learned to write better." The applause wasn't wild, but it was honest, and in that moment, standing beneath soft lights, wrapped in gentle noise that didn't demand anything but presence, Roy smiled, not because he'd gotten revenge, but because he'd gotten closure. Not every story ends in war, some end in rewriting, and this time, he owned the pen.